Another story about a rescue effort. This one does not have a happy ending. Hi there, I'm Jeff, and this is Plain English, where JR and I help you upgrade your English with current events and trending topics. Our lessons are specifically designed to help you, the intermediate English learner. We have the slower speed audio, which you hear now, but there's a lot more on the website too. There's a full transcript. You can find everything by the lesson number. So today is 588. So go to plainenglish.com/588 and you'll find everything JR and I have to offer about today's topic right there. 2 weeks ago, we talked about the rescue of 4 children who survived over a month in the Amazon. When that episode came out on June 26th, the world was just getting over the shock of another search and rescue operation that did not have a happy ending. The Titan submersible that was lost on a mission to see the wreckage of the Titanic. All 5 people on board were killed. The vessel imploded on its descent. You've probably heard the basics of the story, so on today's lesson, I'll tell you more about the company behind the Titan and how the voyage was supposed to go. On Thursday, we'll continue the topic with some uncomfortable questions that are being raised about the company and the voyage. The expression in the second half of today's lesson is off the coast, and we have a quote of the week. Let's get going. The Titanic was the world's biggest and most powerful steamship when it set sail from Southampton, England on April 10th, 1912. 5 days later, it hit an iceberg in the frigid waters of the North Atlantic Ocean. The ship, previously called unsinkable, sank, killing 1,500 people. To this day, it's the deadliest sinking of an ocean-going vessel in peacetime. The Titan was considerably smaller. It held just 5 people. The Titan was a submersible. A submersible is an enclosed watercraft that can navigate underwater, but it doesn't have the same power as a submarine or even a normal boat. It doesn't leave from a port. It has to be carried by a bigger ship. A submersible's job is to explore a limited area. Many are used for scientific research, for observation, or even to collect material from deep underwater. On a typical voyage, a ship carries the submersible to a specific area in the open ocean. The ship lowers the submersible into the water. The submersible then uses its limited power to descend, move about, and return to the surface. They often have cameras on the outside. They can be controlled by passengers inside or from the ship on the surface. Submersibles have been used to learn more about sea creatures, to map the ocean floor, to study plate tectonics, and to visit sites of famous shipwrecks, including the Titanic. OceanGate is a small private company based in Washington State on the western coast of the United States. It had two principal activities: research and tourism. In 2016, the company produced a full map of the Andrea Doria, an Italian ship that sank in the Atlantic in 1956. The map included full 3D scans, still photographs, and videos. OceanGate helped researchers study sea urchins near British Columbia. It created a 3D model of a steamship that sank in a Canadian lake. It helped the Discovery Channel produce an educational film about six-gill sharks. But exploring the deep sea is expensive, and the scientific and education research didn't pay the bills. So the company also turned to another, much more profitable source of business: adventure tourism. A $45,000 per person trip in the Bahamas promised views of sharks, whales, shipwrecks, and other marine creatures. A $250,000 trip off the coast of Portugal promised views of hydrothermal vents. Those are openings in the sea floor that release hot water from deep inside the Earth's surface. OceanGate had a fleet of 3 submersibles, including the Titan. The Titan was a 5-person vessel that was designed to reach a depth of 4,000 meters, the company said. The Titanic is 3,800 meters below sea level. It's not unusual to send a submersible that deep in the ocean, but it is unusual to send one that holds commercial passengers. The Titan was one of only a few submersibles that could bring passengers that deep. The Titan visited the Titanic shipwreck twice, once in 2021 and once in 2022. Each time, it performed multiple dives, carrying 5 people on each dive. The dives included a captain, a subject matter expert, and 2 or 3 paying passengers. The commercial passengers paid $250,000 each. The 2023 voyage had the same price tag. The plan was this: a ship would take the submersible to the surface, above the Titanic wreck. The ship would release the Titan into the water. The Titan would then take a 2-hour trip to the ocean floor. From there, the captain would communicate with the ship on the surface via slow text messages. Those messages would tell the Titan's captain where to steer to find the wreckage. Passengers could see everything through a glass observation portal and through exterior cameras. After a few hours exploring the Titanic, the Titan would ascend to the surface. The whole thing would take about 7 hours. That was the plan. Instead, the Titan lost communication with its ship after just 1 hour and 45 minutes. it never came to the surface. The U.S. Navy says it heard the sound of an implosion right around the time the Titan lost communication. However, the US, Canada, and France all sent search and rescue teams to the area. Finally, 4 days after the Titan went missing, rescue crews found debris on the ocean floor. That debris matched the design of the Titan. That led to an unmistakable conclusion. The Titan had imploded, killing everyone on board. The story had captured the attention of the media and the world for almost a week. Families, rescuers, and others held out hope that the crew would be discovered alive. The Titan had 4 days of oxygen on board, but the most likely scenario is that they were killed just hours into their voyage. A quick note about who was on board: the founder and CEO of OceanGate, the company that owned the Titan, was driving it. His name was Stockton Rush. There were 4 passengers. They included a leading scholar of the Titanic, Paul Henry Nargeolet. He was on his 38th dive to the Titanic site in his career. A British businessman was on board. A Pakistani businessman and his 19-year-old son were also killed in the implosion. The son told his aunt he was terrified of going, but only went on the trip to make his adventure-loving dad happy on Father's Day. This was a terrible tragedy, but there were a lot of warning signs that something could go wrong. We'll talk about that on Thursday. It's just really sad overall, but the saddest thing to me was the teenager from Pakistan. He didn't want to go. He told his aunt that he was afraid, but he went just to make his dad happy since the trip was on Father's Day weekend. But there's almost a mirror image of that tragedy. A father-son pair from the United States was supposed to go on that trip, but they canceled. The other son, the American one, was just 20 years old. He had doubts about the safety of the trip, and that American kid, his name is Sean Bloom, he convinced his dad to cancel. Stockton Rush, the OceanGate founder, called Sean uninformed because he was worried about the Titan's design. This is going to be quick. The expression today is off the coast of. The coast is the part of land that borders the ocean. You sometimes say coastline to talk about the long coast in an area. Florida has a long coastline, so does California. Off the coast is a way to describe where something is in the ocean. On land, we have country borders. And if you want to talk about where something is on land, you usually refer to a country name, a state, a city, a province, something like that. It's in France. It's in Florida. It's near Sao Paulo. It's 10 miles from the border between Poland and Ukraine, whatever, like that. But in the ocean, we don't have a lot of ways of describing where something is. We've got oceans, Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, Arctic, and Antarctic. We've got seas, bays, and other waterways. But one way we often describe location in the water is relative to the nearest country. That's what off the coast means. OceanGate took tourists to hydrothermal vents. Where were they? Off the coast of Portugal. They're not in Portugal, they're in the ocean, not part of any country. But we don't have the vocabulary to pinpoint where it is. So we say where it is in relation to the nearest country. When I say off the coast of Portugal, picture Portugal, and then picture out in the ocean somewhere nearby. But how far? I didn't say in the lesson, but if I wanted to, here's what I'd say. Those hydrothermal vents are about 1,300 kilometers off the coast of Portugal. The nearest coast, the nearest border between land and ocean, that's Portugal's coast. And so we say it's 1,300 kilometers off the coast because it's 1,300 kilometers away from Portugal's coastline. The Titan went down close to the Titanic. That's 1,400 kilometers off the coast of Massachusetts, an American state. Now look, there are a lot of states that have coastline along the North Atlantic Ocean. So this is not precise. The site is also about 1,400 kilometers off the coast of Maine, off the coast of Rhode Island, Connecticut, whatever. But the nearest, closest, most significant point is Massachusetts, which is where many of the rescue ships launched from. So it's an important reference point. So we say that it's off the coast of Massachusetts. This was useful when talking about rescue ships that came from the United States. But Massachusetts is actually not the nearest landmass. We can also describe the same point as being just 600 kilometers off the coast of Newfoundland, a province of Canada. And if I were in Canada, or if I were talking to people in Canada, I would say the site is 600 kilometers off the coast of Newfoundland. But I'm talking to you, to all of you, and I'm guessing that you're more likely to be able to picture Massachusetts than Newfoundland. Now, we only talk this way because we have vocabulary to describe places on land, but we don't have that same knowledge or vocabulary to talk about places in the ocean. You can also talk about islands this way. Do you know where Guam is? Guam is an island in the Pacific Ocean. It's a territory of the United States. It's 2,400 kilometers off the coast of Japan. It's also 6,100 kilometers off the coast of Hawaii. Obviously, it's closer to Japan, but depending on how you want to describe it, You can say it's off the coast of Japan or off the coast of Hawaii. Today's quote is from Alan Turing, a mathematician. The quotes I pick are so often from writers, poets, critics. They produce a lot of memorable words, but I'm glad to pull one from a mathematician. Here it is. We can only see a short distance ahead, but we can see plenty there that needs to be done. This was in 1950 in a paper about machines that can think. Well, now we have machines that can think, and it's easy to ask what if and think way into the future, but it's impossible to predict too far in the future. Better to focus on what we can predict and make positive contributions to that. We can only see a short distance ahead, but we can see plenty there that needs to be done. Wise words from mathematician Alan Turing. And that's all for today's Plain English lesson. Remember, we'll continue this story on Thursday when we'll talk about several uncomfortable questions that are being asked about Ocean Gate and the Titan mission. There's a great expression in there for you on Thursday too. You'll like it. Just wait. But while you wait, you can see this lesson's full content at plainenglish.com/588. In addition to the transcript, the online resources include a few things. First, I pick 2 articles in English about the main topic, and I put them at the bottom of the transcript, so you can read more in English about the topic if you like it. Second, there's a feature called Learn the Lingo. These are the informal expressions, not critical to your speech, but useful. And I pick one from every lesson, and I give you a definition and a guide to how to use it. Today's is pay the bills. In previous weeks, we did poke fun, on the cheap, goes without saying, out of pocket. These just improve your speech. They add a little color. So check that out every week only at plainenglish.com. Join as a free member and you'll get access to Learn the Lingo, that feature I've been telling you about. Well, that's all for me. See you on Thursday.